Hey Tom, hey! Just want to let you know that I really dug your movie.
No, I didn't. Who are you?
Oh, me, I'm interpreting the stars. Here's the review. Hey, what's up and welcome back to Interpreting the Stars, where today I will be talking about the brand new film to come out of Lionsgate. It's Chaos Walking. On a different planet, Todd Hewitt struggles keeping his mind straight as he and every other man on the planet can hear and see each other's thoughts in a phenomenon only known as noise. Not too long ago, the aliens that preside on the planet killed every female for an unknown reason, which comes as a shock when Todd runs into Viola, a random girl in all the world who he must work to protect as she attempts to call her home before the people of Prenticetown find her and do the unthinkable. So Lionsgate graciously sent me a screener to see this movie, and while I'm a little bit later than everybody else getting this review out, I'm happy that I did because shortly before I saw the movie, I was actually able to read the book that it's adapted from, which is called The Knife of Never Letting Go. I actually had that in my library for months before I finally decided to check it out, and the book is interesting. It's not my favorite book in the world, but it had a really good premise, and I was really gearing up to see how they did it in movie format, especially given the cast. Tom Holland, Daisy Ridley, Mads Mikkelsen. I mean, on paper, those are some really good choices, and I'll have to admit that Tom Holland was a decent choice in general. I'm getting more and more impressed with him as an actor, even though the character of Todd Hewitt wasn't exactly a deeply developed character by any means. I've also always been interested in both movies and TV shows that approach the concept of mind reading, especially when they do it in new and different ways, which is something that I think Chaos Walking did relatively well. Past that, the film follows the book somewhat closely. I would say that the beginning is quite a bit different than the book, but once they get to the adventure side of the plot, it more or less follows the plot of the book, which, if you're a fan of when films are true to a book, this isn't horrible in that department, though I have seen better. That being said, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the things in the film that just don't work. And for me, as a whole, it's just that the film feels like a convoluted mess. The book sometimes had the same issue because how exactly do you create a world where it's just a mess of voices nonstop without it being kind of jarbled and confusing? I mean, it's partially the point, right? That the noise in this world is indeed loud and obnoxious at times. But as an audience member, I'd rather focus more on the plot of the story, and I honestly had trouble with that because of everything else that was happening in these people's heads. I also didn't really love the visuals of the film when it came down to what the thoughts looked like. It was cool at first, but it eventually got old for me. Next, I didn't think the casting worked at all. Except for Tom Holland. Tom worked because he's sort of an empty, unassuming character that anybody watching can put themselves in his shoes. But again, he wasn't developed very well. Past him, I thought Daisy was miscast. Has nothing to do with her blonde wig, which everybody else hates. I actually thought that part was fine. Her wig was the least of my worries. I just didn't think she fit the role very well or had the kind of chemistry they wanted her to have with Tom. I also didn't care for Mads Mikkelsen in his role. He, again, was fine, but he also felt like a nothing character at the end of the day. It's hard to say, but I'm pretty sure that I didn't care about any of the characters or what was happening in the narrative. It's a sloppy film that I often had a hard time understanding people's goals or motivations for said goals. I don't know, let's go ahead and break it down. From an unbiased technical perspective, the things that sometimes impressed me in the story were how they made the thoughts sound, especially because they were as jarbled as our own real thoughts. Most films with mind reading present it as clear as day and just not how real thoughts work, so that's cool. But that also presents the film with the problem that it's just kind of hard to comprehend at times, and almost aimless in a way. The technical score is 56%, and when it comes down to my bias score, that's a little bit lower, because I just had a hard time with the movie overall. I didn't care about the casting. I thought the plot was messy. If you can even call it a plot, it cut out the elements of the book that actually made it enjoyable, like how Todd's dog can talk. I don't know. It just wasn't what I was expecting, nor was it enjoyable for what it was. So this bias score is 46%. Averaging out the two scores together, we come to the final rating of 51%, 51 out of 100 possible stars, or an F letter grade. It always hurts me to give out this grade, since I consider myself to usually be lenient on films that others despise. True, my score is higher than the current Rotten score of 25% on Rotten Tomatoes, But at the end of the day, it doesn't really make a massive difference if my score is also rotten. Anyways, if you guys have seen the movie, let me know your thoughts on it in the comments down below. And as always for YouTube, you know what to do. Hit that like, subscribe button, and bell to be notified when I come out with my next review. And until then, peace out.
Dave examines movies we just watch for fun. Davey is the expert. He is the #1 critic that I go to when I need a movie pick. Thanks for joining up with us.